as well as the fact that his infamy, as well as the fact that he was famous, does that take away from the possibility of him getting that statue you talk about?
I mean, if you think about Elvis Presley and how he died and how he lived, or if you think about John Lennon and how he died and how he lived, Frank Sinatra, how he lived. I mean, Frank was connected to the mob. I mean, most artists that I know, most artists that you know, they're not going with the flow. They're testing the boundaries, and that's the difficulty, because sometimes when you're trying to reach down deep inside to find that common chord, to find that blue note, it's usually based on trials and tribulations and going through things that you really hope that nobody finds out about, but most often they do.
Well, now, you know, there's a double standard in this country. And maybe Elvis Presley could get away with it, Frank Sinatra, but can James Brown get away with it?
Well, that's what James's complaint was when he went to jail here in South Carolina. You know, if this was Elvis, he wouldn't be in jail and he wouldn't have 16 bullet holes in his truck. And, I mean, so those realities exist. But then again, when there was a movement to get James Brown out of jail, you know, Carol Campbell and Strom Thurmond, and in particular Strom Thurmond, were saying, let's figure out a way to get James Brown out of jail, because Strom and James did have a relationship.
Okay, okay. I mean, so are you in the forefront of getting James Brown the kind of recognition in South Carolina specifically that he deserves?
Well, I mean, I think by writing this piece, and that's an edited version of the piece, it gets the ball rolling. And to try to put his life into some sort of historical context, that gets the ball rolling. And just to get people to start recognizing, as I said earlier, you got Graceland and Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, whatever you want to call him. And you got James Brown, the godfather of soul, the king of soul, who has just as much impact on music, if not more, than Elvis Presley. You know, Elvis Presley got his from the brothers and the sisters, too. So, you know, I think at some point in time, people will come to recognize the value of recognizing James's accomplishments. I mean, what do we have in South Carolina? We have the flag. We have a lot of slave tourism. When people go to Charleston, you know, the first place they're going to go is they're going to go down to the slave market. If they come to Columbia, even if it's out of curiosity, they're going to go up on that State House grounds and look at that flag. And when you look at the State House, and it doesn't necessarily mean that James's statue has to be on public property.
Okay.
Private people can take up the cause. I mean, and you know, what I try to do oftentimes is serve as a catalyst. I don't have to have any credit for someone saying, let's organize some sort of celebration, some sort of recognition of James Brown, because we need to be honoring James Brown and his achievements. And at this point in history, maybe we all need to look at projects that we can focus on and actually accomplish, that we can take kids to, take people to, and say, these are the accomplishments that this particular person achieved. This is why this statue is up. And it's always going to be a mixture of good and bad. You know, no one, you know, my opposition to having statues is that people have a tendency to forget the negative. But and they build up this heroic picture of perfection, which, you know,
it doesn't exist. Kevin, I have to ask you, I know that you've written at least one book and you're in the process of writing another one. Tell us about your books, just very briefly.
This James Brown piece is in Waiting for Lightning to Strike, The Fundamentals of Black Politics. And I just want to give people kind of a primer on what are the basic, consistent things in black politics from abolitionism through the civil rights movement to now. And I included James Brown piece because I said one of the things that's essential to black politics is this idea of soul and what that means. And of course I got a piece in there called Dixie 101. I've got a piece that I published in a book called American Monsters by a fellow by the name of Mark Jacobson, who did the screenplay and wrote the story for American Gangsters, the new Denzel Washington movie. He and Jack Newfield, who used to write for the Village Voice, did a collection. So I wrote a piece on Strom Thurmond, and that's in this book. And the second book is called The Decline of Black Politics, from Malcolm X to Barack Obama. Now, I know that title's kind of loaded, but it's, you know, wait till the book comes out. And they're done by two different publishers. The Waiting for Lightning to Strike is done by CP Books, and The Decline of Black Politics is done by Verso. One comes out in the summer and one's coming out early fall.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much. It's always good talking to you. Always interesting conversation.